Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm going to be looking at some awesome new cards revealed over on Poke Beach, and these are cards that I believe are going to be coming in Obsidian Flames. I don't know if they all are. We'll see, but this one is here, and there's a bunch of them. Some of them stick around to the end because some of them are super insane, I think. But this first one here is not that good in my opinion, but it's this Absolute EX, which has 210 HP. It's dark, so you do have Dark Patch. For one dark, you look at the top 3 cards of either player's deck and put them back in any order. This is okay, but we've seen attacks like this that are just a bit better. They're like cheaper, single price, or that type of thing. Then we also see Cursed Slug, which is kind of a weird name for an attack, but whatever. And it does 100, and if your opponent has 3 or fewer cards in their hand, it does 120 more. Obviously, you can get them down to this with Iono during the later turns or Roxanne, but Judge will never do this. It's fine. It's certainly a solid attack, but I'd rather attack with like Miraidon probably. Next up, we have Town Department Store, which is a stadium. Once during each player's turn, they may search deck for a tool, reveal and put into their hand. So that's kind of okay. I mean, it's solid. There's like a tool drop style deck where you want to get lots of tools into play and then like get rid of them, which is kind of interesting. And there are some decks like that, but I don't know. The stadium's only okay. I think I'm not a massive fan of it by any means, but you can use it to grab Forest Hailstone, which is nice, but usually decks aren't playing tons of different tools. Next up, we have, okay, so these are a bunch of cards. Or no, it's just one line. It's just the King Gambit line as well as this Revenge Punch tool card. So the Poniard is pretty bad, but then the Bishop here does flip 3 coins. If it does 50, if one of them's heads, it does 70. If 2 of them are heads, it does 110. And if all 3 are heads, it does 170, which is solid, I guess. Yeah, it's not awful by any means. And then we see this King Gambit that says if your opponent's active has 4 more damage counters on it, it's instantly KO'd, which is really interesting. It's not that hard to do. There are a few ways of doing it. Keep in mind this is 1 metal on a stage 2, so it's not the easiest thing to do, but not the hardest either. So and then the other attack 140 for 3 is not great, but insta KO this is pretty solid, but it's also awkward. You have like Meowscarada, but as I said, awkward. Or the Italians or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I think if the Chilling Rain, if the whole Intelliant engine was still around, this would be very good. Obviously, it's not. I'm not sure where I stand on this one, but it's certainly an interesting concept that has potential. And then actually, the tool that helps it a lot is this Punching Glove tool. When this Pokemon is knocked out from damage from your opponent's attack, put 4 damage counters on the defending Pokemon, meaning that you instantly get the return KO. It's like Rocky Helmet, but amplified a little bit, which is solid. It's honestly a very good card. We've seen, I think it's Box of Disaster, which is if a V instantly is one-shotted, then you put 8 damage counters on the defending Pokemon. Obviously, this is only 4, but you don't need to get one shot. You just need to be KO'd. So I think Revenge Punch is a pretty solid tool with the King Gambit together as a very solid combo as well. I don't know if I'll see too much play, but I think it's an interesting idea. Next, we have a couple of terrestrial Pokemon. Okay, so we have a bunch of different things. You have this Stoutland line. It does more for damage in each energy in your opponent's retreat cost, meaning that it's like Leafeon V Max or things like that. It's fine. I certainly don't expect it to see play, though. It's a stage 2. It's not awful by any means, but not great either. And then we also see this Squova. Is that any good? No, you can discard 1 for 1 colorless. Okay, that's certainly all right. We've seen things like this before, and they've been okay sometimes. But then Greedent EX, look at the top 3. Oh, that's just like a draw-based attack. It's nothing amazing. But then Foolish Rolling doing 210 for 3. Yeah, that's not that impressive. This isn't the worst card I've seen, but it's not great either. Then we see the Dratini Dragonair, not great. But then Dragonite EX, this is a... Oh, it's Terrastal, but it's still Dragon type, so it's pretty much just a stage 2 EX. And then it does 70 for 1 colorless, which isn't awful, but not great. Then Meteor Break, 140 on a coin flip. If you flip heads, you do 140. If tails, you can't attack next turn. Honestly, that's not very good. 280 is good, but obviously the fact that you just be doing 140 is not very good. And then Drampa does 60 and 10 more for each damage counter in this Pokemon. We've seen things like this, but only a 10 times multiplier, or like a 1 times multiplier, is not that good. I don't think this Drampa's particularly strong. I don't think it's awful, but it's a bit too weak. Next up, we have the big ones that I really wanted to talk about. Um, have a bunch of Capsikids, which are kind of weird. Then Scovillain, which is both grass and fire, which is kind of cool, I guess. And then it does 110 and isn't affected by resistance. I mean, hitting grass weakness or fire weakness aren't great weaknesses, though. So I don't think it's that good. And then we see Toxel, then Toxtricity. Okay, it does 50 and 30 more for each type of Pokemon on your bench, meaning that if you have a full bench of different types, assuming you're not doing anything weird, although we do have this Scovillain as well as Hoopa but if you have a normal 5 different types of Pokemon on your bench, you can be hitting 200, which is actually pretty solid, but you can even go further than that with, as I said, the Scovillain, with the Hoopa and even technically Kecleon, but probably not. So, honestly, I think this... I think the stock strategy is pretty good. I think it's awkward, but it's interesting. It's also like a similar idea to Sylveon VMAX. It actually has a higher multiplier, but a lower base damage, which is a pretty noticeable deal. I'd say this is actually better than Sylveon VMAX though, but it's still kind of awkward. So I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are on this one. But to me, it looks really cool. We see Glimmer and Glimlet, and then we see Glamoris. So, it's in English. So some of you may have seen this one before. It's super good. As long as this Pokemon is in the active, your opponent can't have more than 3 bench Pokemon, and then if they have more, they discard them. And then also it does 140 for 2 in poisons. This is really interesting. However, I think it's a bit like awkward as well, right? We have things like this with Tingaloo. Kind of the same idea where it needs to be in the active, your opponent can switch it out. And that can be a bit awkward to have to deal with, because when your opponent sends it to the bench, all of a sudden they get their bench back, and also they can control us with path and stuff, and then they can expand and shrink their bench almost to your opponent's to their desire, which is not great, because then they can get rid of the Pokemon they want to get rid of. But there's another Glamour that's immune on coin flip or doesn't give a prize on a coin flip, and then we also see that there's like poison stuff and poison synergy, so it's kind of interesting. I don't know where I stand on this one, but it's interesting, definitely. Next up, Togepi, not great. Togetic. There are actually some better Togepi and Togetix. And then we have Togekiss. So this Togekiss is actually also really interesting. It's kind of like Radiant Venusaur, but it says when starting your turn after you attack, you may draw until you have 8 cards in hand, which is really interesting. The Radiant Venusaur is only draw until you have 4, which a lot of times won't be drawing you very much. And a Zek isn't awful either. And as for your treat, 150 HP is not awful for a Togekiss either. 110 HP or 110 damage, move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. I mean, you can conserve an energy. So it's really interesting, but drawing till you have 8 at the end of your turn, honestly, in my opinion, is super good because, like, sure, you are kind of vulnerable to, like, not Manu, Judge, and, like, Iono and stuff, but it's still not that, but it's nice. It's a solid draw engine. It won't give you tons of push, but it's a nice addition. And then you have the healing Togepi and Togekiss if you want to play those two. I think this will be nice. And honestly, I think putting this in Lost Zone Gudra will be a very solid inclusion. You play like a 2-2-2 line. Obviously, that's a bunch of space, but then you don't get too techy with anything else. And then all of a sudden, I think you have a pretty solid deck because you have a lot of strong draw power in the early game. And then by the end of the game, when you've kind of stalled out, used all your switches, you can go and use the Togekiss to draw some more cards. Or some style of deck kind of like that. That's more passive or more active in the early game, passive in the late game. Next, we have Varoom and 2 Varooms, which aren't that interesting. Then Revavroom EX. So this one can have up to 4 tools attached to it, and of course we also have Revavroom that draws cards as an engine piece, and then we have Wild Drift 170 for Metal Colorless, then it takes 30 less next turn, meaning that you can have some interesting combos. However, I don't think there are any good tools for this. There's also Honchkrow, which could have, which still can have 4 tools, and I believe it's still in standard. It'll be in its hand for a little while. And that's interesting because you have Dark Patch for that, but then you also have the Charm of Courage. You can get Master HP. Revavroom, I don't think has many synergistic tools right now, but maybe in the future we'll see something good. Next up, we have Okay, this is the insane card in my opinion. We have Pidgeot EX. Oh, it's not in English, obviously. Once during your turn, you may search the deck for any card and put it into your hand, and you can only use one of this ability per turn. We have seen this ability before in Pidgeot, I believe. It was a very, very long time ago. And then you also have an attack 2 colors, 120, discard a stadium in play. So that's really interesting. It has for your treat 280 HP for a stage 2 EX is low, and your attack's not very good, but the ability is insane, right? Honestly, I love this. It's an amazing ability, allowing you to search for anything, including energies, like special energies, which are so awkward to search out. And now without the Inteleon, I think a lot of decks are kind of looking for something to fill that void, and it's definitely not the same. It's a bit more awkward to do, but I think this will see play. I think it's really good and really interesting and really powerful. So I'm really looking forward to this Pidgeot. I'm super hyped for it. Also, I think these are Obsidian Flames. They are the Japanese equivalent set, which means most of them will be here, but not guaranteed. And then we have this interesting Flamigo as well. It does 60 for 2, which isn't amazing, but then if you have a Flamigo on your bench, it does 60 to one of your opponent's bench also, which is really interesting. That's actually a good damage output. So I think this card's really good, meaning obviously getting 2 into play isn't that crazy. And then you just attack with it, and all of a sudden you're putting 120 damage onto the board. And then you're also spreading it, and I think this is very annoying to have to deal with. Honestly, I think this Flamingo is pretty insane. You compare it with a few things to like boost damage, place damage counters. I think this Flamingo is absolutely not broken, but I think it's very good. Next up, we have Pokemon League HQ. So the attack cost of each basic in play is 1 colors more. This is kind of awkward for like. I can't think of any decks that this is awkward. Oh, I guess Lost Zone kinda, but not really, and they have plenty of bumps. I don't know. It's a little awkward for a few decks though, but I don't think at the current meta it's actually that good because a lot of decks are evolution decks, and obviously hurting yourself is kind of annoying too. We have Ortega. Look at your opponent's hand. Choose a card you find, then put it on the bottom of your deck. Then you can draw. Then your opponent may draw 1 card, which is actually. Oh, I thought it was you draw 1 card. Your opponent draws a card. That's bad. It doesn't actually like hurt their hand size. Sure, it removes a card from their hand, but the fact that your opponent can draw afterwards is so annoying, meaning that you don't actually know exactly what's in the hand after that. So I think this card isn't very good. Yeah, this is pretty weak in terms of hand disruption. Certainly it can be annoying, but I don't think it's ever going to be good enough. I don't know. I play a bunch of control, and it's interesting. I'll probably end up playing it at some point, but I don't think it's a super strong deck. Then we have Gita, which is this support is super interesting. Till the end of your the turn, you play this card. None of your Pokemon can attack, which is super annoying, right? That's bad. Then you search your deck for up to 2 basic energies and attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. So this is kind of weird. Like, are there abilities you can use to end your turn? There are a few, but I'm not sure if this is good enough. But it's a really, really interesting card. I think Gita is super cool. It's kind of like Mirage Gate, obviously. It's actually better in terms of what it does, but you can't split up the energies, so I'm not sure if it's actually better. But I think Gita is super interesting. Honestly, this is the one I'm most interested in hearing your thoughts about and other people's thoughts. There's so much going on, but I'm not entirely sure if it's good or bad. But I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. And then some fancy arts, which are something. This Pidgeot EX, I don't think suits an EX. It's a fun art, but as an EX, I don't think it. I don't know. It's not quite legendary. This Rev Room is funny though. I like it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm interested in hearing your thoughts, as I said. And as always, I'm excited to see you next time.